Things aren't all rosy in the Celtic garden as Mathias Kvistgaarden's talks have broken down with the club. Welcome back to Fog Football. A record fee was rumoured, 14 million was the asking price from Brondby, but of course it's no happened. I said it wouldn't happen. I got called a liar. I got called idiotic. But the reality is Celtic aren't going to be spending £14 million on a striker. Have they got the funds? You bet your bottom dollar they've got the funds, right? But £9.5 million on a day, right? Brought in Jota, pretty much for what they sold Kyogo for. All that money on Engels. Are you trying to tell me that Celtic were going to sign a guy for 14 million and that results in what, 34 million in that ballpark of free players signed? It just doesn't make sense in this league. You know, it goes against the whole player trading model at the end of the day. Would this guy have went on to, make profit for Celtic if he joined? Yeah, I think he would have, but if you're signing the guy for 14 million, even if you sell him for like O'Reilly money, you're making about double, and that's if you can get him for that. So I'm not surprised that this has fell through, but we'll get on to that a wee bit later on, because let's go to a deal that was actually confirmed for Celtic Football Club. Luis Palma has joined Olympiacos FC on loan until the end of the season. Bit surprised by this, not by the fact that he's left, but he's joined a rival Greek team. Of course, most of his career was in Greece, and he had a pretty successful period which earned him to move to Celtic. Obviously scored that goal against Atletico Madrid, a few other goals here and there, but it's no worked out for Luis Palma. Doesn't really have much I think his finishing's alright, doesn't really have much pace, doesn't really track back, and the fact that they added Jota in, you've got Maida, Kuhn. You've also got a legend like Forrest who's just above Luis Palma in most people's estimations. I'm not surprised this guy has been moved on in a loan. There's no option to buy, I don't believe, so I don't think... Olympiacos could make it permanent. You don't really need an option to buy to make it permanent because I think that only really works. But if you're going to put that option in anyway, it would suggest that the club would want rid of him. If Olympiacos come in with a £2 million, a £3 million bid at the end of the season, Celtic are going to accept that every day of the week. And, that may seem high for Luis Palma, but the reality is we've seen Celtic get fees for guys that we've not really thought much of. Mikey Johnson, $3 million. That just seemed absolutely ludicrous at the time, but here they got the money for it. But I'm hearing, what about strikers? So Celtic have apparently moved on to other targets. Kvistgaarden, it's fell through. No way you thought this deal wasn't going to happen. It's currently, we're into February. The transfer window slammed shut on Monday. Kyogo, pretty much ever since that match against Young Boys came to an end, Kyogo's move just got spoken to hyper gear. If Celtic were going to get this Mathias Kvistgaarden, man, they should have really seriously been quicker about it. But once you heard 14 million, I knew Celtic. It's not even like the test at the water. Now, the real rumour is why it's broken down is because Celtic and Brondby both had massive different asking prices. Celtic only wanted to spend around 8 million, while Brondby went 14. We reported that a couple of days ago. 6 million's a lot. That would obviously break Arnie Engels, and I just think to break the transfer record fee in back-to-back windows when you don't really need to do it is mental. Now, you could argue Celtic do need to do it because they've lost their best since Larsson. That's what most Celtic fans are saying. And if you lose a guy who's the best since Henrik Larsson, you certainly need to replace him. Adam Adea, here, hands up. He got 2 good goals against Aston Villa. They may have been tap-ins, but we've seen in the past that Celtic have missed tap-in goals in the Champions League, and he put them in the back of the net. Might not have amounted to anything, but it got them back into the game at the time. But it seems like Celtic are panicking because they've moved on to other targets such as Kelechi Iheanacho, once good, once great at Manchester City, moved on to Leicester, achieved a few things, ended up at Seville. Sofia, sorry, not Seville. Well, technically he's in Seville, but this would be a loan deal. It does reek of desperation here. There would be an option to buy, but he's not really done much for Sofia this season. Here, it's not the one Celtic wanted, but they got in this situation last season where they signed a guy on loan that no one really wanted, and they ended up winning a double with the Cup and the League. And of course, Adam Adea, as much as Fog Football can bury the guy, he did contribute to that last season. Now, in terms of Iheanacho's stats, he's played 9 games this season, no goals, no assists. Not exactly what you want to hear if you're a Celtic fan, but at the end of the day, if this guy's coming off the bench at Celtic Park, 3-0 up against St Johnstone, whatever, if that's just one example, there's 10 other teams in the league. He's going to get goals for Celtic regardless of what's happened over in La Liga. Because against tired defences, the chances are going to come thick and fast. And I actually think this guy's only 28. I thought he actually would have been older than that. So, yeah, there's worse players to be linked with. End of the day, this is a guy with buckets of Premier League experience. Not exactly worked out for him over in Sevilla. Now his market value is 5 million, which just shows you how it's crazy how much that's actually plummeted over the years. But he's only recently moved to Sevilla in the summer there in 2024. 15 goals for Nigeria in 55 matches. Now he actually got 3 goals in the Copa del Rey earlier this season, but no goals in La Liga, so that's the disappointing fact for him. But yeah, Celtic are kind of in the situation where they just need someone to. But then would he cover a day? I think a day is probably justified starting over this guy based off what he did there. I mean, what he's done in the last 2 Champions League games. Yeah, he didn't score against Young Boys, but he contributed to it, and then 2 goals for against Aston Villa. We'll have to wait and see how it goes, but not exactly what Celtic fans want it, because they want it Kvistgaarden, a guy that's young, guy that's promising, a guy that would make a lot of profit, and they're getting a guy on loan. And I mean, I'll be honest, does any Celtic fan really want to sign Iheanacho? It depends. You know, if he bangs in 15 goals and somehow carries them past Bayern Munich and helps them on the way to a treble, I think a lot of people's opinions will change. But judging by comments and judging by social media, I think a lot of people are a bit depressed by the news that they're not going to sign a guy for 14 million. Instead, they're going to get some guy that was good about 8 years ago. And that's it, guys, for Fog Football on this Saturday night. Till then, peace.